don't think anyone comes to wear clothes like this just out of a void. Or one day you go, oh, Barney's basement sale doesn't work for me anymore. I think I'll wear a black robe at a Zen Buddhist monastery. It's a long process.
They create a really visible way to feel and see the kind of uniformity of intention. You kind of put on this robe that covers you from neck to ankle, and so many of the things that we can so quickly use to identify someone and make decisions about who we think they are or who we think we are, it is stripped down.
What you have on is not necessarily making the announcement first before you open your mouth, because it announces you and something about you immediately before the mouth or the words come out.
So every time I put this on, it reminds me of my vow, which is to, in Buddhist language, is to save all sentient beings, which really means to respond to all sentient beings.
It's just the mind, the way the mind starts grasping. This is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, rather than really an appreciation of what it is you have.
Life just kept continuing to spiral, and not down, not up, it just kept whirling. It kept coming back, because it spoke to me. That was rather at the height of the AIDS crisis. Everyone was dying. How I am alive, I do not know. I've buried 2 lovers to AIDS. How am I HIV negative? Everything that you thought was important, everything that we had been doing, what was necessary, to look right, be at the right party, have the right friends, nothing mattered.
That was just the death of my mother, really, when I was 19, and she was there one minute, and the next minute she wasn't, so where the hell was she? You know what I mean? And I did not like that very much, that I didn't know. Where is she? She was here 1 minute ago, and she's not here now. And that was just the thrust that sent me, into everything, the quest to really try to find out through dance, through everything, through each motion. It has still, to this day, to try to find out the answer to that question.
I would do retreats here, and I'd go home and I'd say, please God, don't make me want to become a monk in the morning. Don't make me want to do this, it's too hard. The habit's too intense. I can't do this. And eventually I became a student 10 years later, and it all fell away. My father was an army officer early on in his world, and he'd have, I'd leave something out of a drawer, and he'd have a little citation on it. It would say my name, and it'd have the date, and he'd keep a carbon copy. And every Saturday, I would come with a stack of citations, and I'd lose my allowance. He was very hardcore, that everything had to be put away. So my life was really, I thought I loved a mess and an undisciplined, life. And in fact, I'm much more like him than different. I like everything put away. Leave no trace, we say in this practice.
I had just lost a really close friend in an accident, so I had this kind of juxtaposition of thinking okay, I'm venturing into my adulthood, and also this sense of oh my gosh, Anne, I'm mortal. Wow, you're kidding, it's over like that, no preparation. And it felt to me that no one had a clue about human life.
I had a very good life, but I always felt that there had to be more, that there was something that I couldn't quite see. I could feel, but I couldn't quite see it. And I had a very strong sense that there had to be a way to live this life that wasn't so difficult.
I just respond to clothing, and it was just so revivifying and life-giving to me. At first I was extremely extravagant, say, I went up to my boyfriends with a see-through polka dot 1920s dress, and I thought it was normal, I didn't think anything was wrong with that, and a fur coat. But then I started doing yoga, and then I started wearing only white, and didn't have any of that. I think the basic thing was my hair, and the best way to describe it was somebody said, "You got a party going on in your hair," and I had things hanging and ribbons and stuff like that. Now, being completely kind of empty with none of that is a way to express, because in that way you can express what's in front of you. You're not filled with anything.
Usually I throw in a curse word just so people will relax a little, because they put this like, ooh, Buddhist monk, and they put this juju on you, and it's like, wait a minute, honey, I put my pants on one leg at a time. I mean, I know these don't have any pants legs, but, there's no difference. Just a guy. I worked in a graphic art studio for an ad agency for many years. Everyone had the same uniform, when you worked at Bloomingdale's, you got those fabulous discounts and you wore fabulous clothes and you were supposed to look fabulous all the time. That was part of the culture. I had a lot of friends that loved to shop. And they would go, here, look at this. This would look great on you. Or oh no, that's awful. And so I was dressed.
Yeah, I was spoiled.
Did you grow up a lot? Yeah.
Spoiled, Jewish background. I was the entitled son. I had everything I wanted in a little bell. Well, waffles now. I was doing music in New York City. They had ridiculous clothes, platform heels. I wore a tooth in my ear that had a gold cap on it, and I wore like satin pants with bell bottoms, and I wore a jacket with it. It had a dragon that was going like.
I've never liked uniforms, so it's kind of ironic that I became a Buddhist monk and have to, in a sense, wear the same thing every day. I've never liked them. I used to rebel in school. I had to wear it one day a week, and I didn't.
So I'm a student here. I'm not a monk. I'm a lay practitioner. I work as a teacher. I work with like high school age students, and I really love that. Ever since I first came here, I've had the thought of like, how interesting that you can make the choice to be a monk. I didn't know, before I came here, I didn't know that people did that. Living at the monastery, I'm like, it's like t-shirt, khaki pants, whatever, every day. I don't really think about it. But I remember when we decided that we were going to be working part-time and living here, I was like, I get to get my skirts and dresses out of storage.
My hair started down here, and it was a very slow process, agonizing at times, I think, to who was I without my hair. And, right before I shaved it and became a monk, which was only last year, I had to investigate that question. Who was I as a woman without hair?
There's nothing to frame your face. It's all out there, and it felt very vulnerable. You feel completely exposed. A lot of times people will assume that I have cancer, that I'm doing chemo.
Are you in treatment? They would hope I am. And so I had to be in that moment. It's a challenging moment, and because you're not and they are still. I've worked with different ways of just being with that.
Putting this on was not foreign. You know how when you can put something on and it just doesn't, you go, this is not me. I don't want a bear coat. It is not me. This was not that.
This robe with the long sleeves, this is Chinese actually, and it went from China to Japan, then to the United States. And one thing that having the sleeves does is it forces you to be very aware of how you move. You can't be sloppy. You'll either fall or you'll trip all over yourself. And so simply by having to wear the robe in a particular way creates a particular kind of awareness, presence, hopefully grace.
The case is in here, and this is what we put around our shoulder, and that represents the Buddha's robe. And it's tied in a certain way.
So you go through a ceremony where you actually make this yourself. We sew it. And, on the other side is the calligraphy of my name, Japanese transliteration of Chinese characters that then have a meaning.
I put this on. It merged with my skin. And it reminded me of when I sold vintage clothing and somebody would put on a 1940s crepe, and it would be like they were in that for their entire life. You know, I don't know if you felt that like when you're shopping. I mean, there's a moment when you're just like, oh my God, this is my dress, you know? And it was like that with this robe, and it was a little bit, it was shocking to feel that feeling about a robe, you know, that was so stark and just not, it didn't seem like it was like me, you know, the me that I thought that I, you know, knew about, but there it was.
Everyone is who they are. Everyone is going to be exactly who they are. We're mirrors for each other. So it allows us to see ourselves very clearly and with an open heart.
I've never, ever, even a shred could say that I ever felt cloned in any way. The one thread through it is that that kind of commitment and seriousness can be expressed in that many different ways, I think is glorious.
Although it's a religion, you could also say that it's the study of the mind.
Zen is very uncomfortable. It's like called failing ground. You know, you have no ground. You're not really standing at any moment on anything, you know, because it's going to change the next moment for you.
I can see how for some religious the symbolism of what they put on is important, but in Zen Buddhism, the practice of watching our minds, of looking at what's real, what's going on. I mean, I have to look at it. This is special, Dido painted this for me. You know, I could make all of this something. It's a piece of fabric. You know, it is nothing. One little match and it's gone. What happens to the one wearer? What happens to the wearer of the worn object? These are the same thing. This is my practice as a Zen Buddhist monk.
It's interesting because it's the same in some way, you know, as the outward expression of it. And certainly as deep as what I thought I was doing then, which is really trying to find out who I was, but in a very different way.
So it's holding, you know, it's like when you're used to, you know, going anywhere you want to go, doing anything you want to do, and you land in a place that's quite opposite. What you find, though, is that within that discipline, there's all the freedom.